Hello, PriceSmart. Welcome to our podcast, At the Club, a communication channel with our employees, where we will share valuable information, fascinating topics, and inspiring stories that you haven't heard before, keeping us connected on a whole new level. Join us on this journey and discover everything happening at the club. PriceSmart Inc. provides this podcast for general information. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are the personal views of the podcasters and their guests, and not the views, policies, or opinions of PriceSmart. PriceSmart makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. This podcast might contain forward-looking statements concerning PriceSmart's anticipated plans, revenues, and related matters. These statements are subject to risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially, including the risks detailed in PriceSmart's most recent annual report on Form 10-K and other filings with the SEC, which are accessible on the SEC's website at www.sec.gov.
So much goes into the packaging.
We've developed so many cool products that are completely unique to PriceSmart.
Respect, always.
I think our members are really smart.
We had sales data, so we use data to make decisions. A mother, I have 8-year-old twin girls and a 5-year-old boy, and they're my life.
Welcome to the At the Club podcast. We have another episode here today, and I'm David Price, the host of the podcast. So I'm here with two special guests. We're here in San Diego, and we're in a new location in San Diego. We're finally at our corporate headquarters again, and it's great to be back, although I'm here quite frequently, but it's great for you all to be back here with us. So today we're going to talk about merchandise. We're going to talk about our international foods merchandise, and I'm here with Lisa Knight, a global buyer for several different departments here at the company, and Ariane Freville, who's a senior director of merchandising. So she manages a team of multiple buyers. And thanks so much for being here on the podcast today, you guys. Appreciate it. So it's always so much fun to have a chance to talk with our team and to share with our employees and members and other stakeholders that listen in on what we do. And I get particularly excited when I have a chance to do an episode on merchandise, because it feels like so central to what makes this business work. A business model with less than, we operate with less than 3,000 SKUs generally. And so every item matters a whole lot. So it's a highly curated, highly differentiated merchandising strategy. So before we get into all the meaty stuff, it'd be great to just get to know a little bit about you guys. So first question, how did you come to be at PriceSmart? And maybe we'll start with Ariane. How do we find you here today?
I think I found you. So I've been, this is my 17th year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And one of my college friends was an assistant buyer here at PriceSmart and told me about an assistant buyer position. So I started in the non-foods department buying some computers and also some categories I'm pretty sure are now dead. That would be fax machines and home telephones. This is
how the world has changed.
For sure, and it's not even that long ago. I often reflect on that, and it's how fast the world is moving in technology, for sure. But I always knew I would have a career in international business all my life. I even knew I would not live where I'm from in France. From a very young age, I had this presentiment. I don't know how else to explain it or get feeling that I would be living somewhere else and doing some global thing.
A premonition.
And so everything I did in terms of studies and where I wanted to live kind of led me to that. So this has been a great fit. But before PriceSmart, I was actually in sales. And I worked for a local catering company selling events like weddings and...
Here in San Diego.
In San Diego. This was a small company. I knew I probably wouldn't stay there. I had a lot of fun there. But the interesting part is once I tasted being on the other side of the coin, which is purchasing versus sales, I like purchasing a lot more. There are things there be more leverage, and long-term goals and strategy versus sales seems to be a bit short-term, and goals change every month, and that was really stressful. So I did like that position.
So you came in as an assistant buyer, and you've worked your way up, learning different departments. And what have you bought since you've been here? What different departments?
So non-food, I stayed a couple of years, and I was an assistant buyer for the categories I told you. And then I actually did vendor promotions. I managed the promotions for 2 years, which would be managing our demo program we have in club, the scheduling of it, talking to vendors.
Right.
And then the end caps that we had at the time, also Christmas catalog. So a few vehicle promotions that we had back then. And then after that, I became a buyer for liquor and grocery, and that did that for 10 years.
Mm.
And then after that, I did juices, beverages, snack and candy, water. And then after that, going into management. So I would say 12 years of buying total as a buyer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What a great set of experiences. And Lisa, what about you?
Well, how I came to PriceSmart is I was recruited by someone who I'd worked with professionally and knew it was a great fit. And I've been in buying for 21 years. 7 of those are with PriceSmart. I have bought nearly every category. And how I got into buying is I wanted to be a marriage family therapist. And then to get your post-grad hours, you have to intern, which is no money. So to pay the bills, I worked at a pet boutique, front-end sales. Then I became store manager, and then I became the buyer for the store. And I loved it. I loved being able to buy, source products, service needs. And then ever since then, I've been in buying. And like Ariane, to come to the company, they start us out right. You have to start as an assistant buyer first to learn how different global buying is than other types of retail. So you think you know it, but you don't. You have to learn it.
Well, global buying and buying for a club business
Yes.
is also different from other formats.
Exactly. And especially being a U.S. global buyer, that means that I buy for all of our countries, all of our clubs, but I work hand in hand with local teams. So we round out those assortments.
So what are you currently responsible for buying, and what have you bought? You have a favorite that you bought over the years?
Oh my goodness. Well, the seasonal food program that we offer at PriceSmart, I am so proud of, and I've had the privilege to manage that department for 5 years. And when I started at PriceSmart, it was in grocery. So I was an assistant there, and then I became a senior. It's
a
a
lot of items.
It was
in
a lot.
grocery. Yeah.
You learn a lot. Now then I was a senior assistant buyer, so next level, and I started managing the seasonal program. And now as a buyer, I manage the candy food program as well. But I bought almost every category in those years, even live plant, which I think was the hardest for me to buy.
I was not at PriceSmart though, because we buy all of our live plants locally.
No. I was in museum gift shop industry. So I was buying live plants for botanical gardens. So you have to learn quick. And I always know if I don't know something, I'll find out.
I had no idea you were a plant buyer.
I was.
How fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very interesting category, typical category.
And geology, about geology as well. Little space stones, moon rocks.
Cool. Okay. But now you're buying seasonal foods.
And nuts.
Very good. And candy. 3 really important areas and differentiated areas for our business. So kind of jumping right into it, one of the things I love all the aspects of our business in terms of the categories and areas that we sell, but it really is an item business. So each item needs to stand on its own, and we don't have a lot of choices in each category, right? But I really particularly am passionate about the foods area, in part because I like to cook and I'm a foodie. But I also think that the supply chain nature of some of where these products come from, the great lengths that our team goes through to assure quality and sourcing and the labor practices are right. I mean, there's so much plant visits. I mean, there's so many aspects of how this all happens. So I'm just curious about kind of like, let's kind of dig into a little bit about like, how do we handle global sourcing? I mean, like there's so much to choose from. How do you think about like when you, let's take just seasonal as a particular example, like how do you even begin to decide what we will sell during a seasonal program?
It starts with sourcing, going to trade shows, making sure we see what is available and what's not, and being nimble enough to then create something that doesn't exist because there's a need. So we'll see the needs for certain core items in Christmas, your cookies, your giftables. So we'll make sure we have things at the right price point in multiple packs. So we've developed so many cool products that are completely unique to PriceSmart. And in the seasonal, since they're merchandised together, we make sure they all look cohesive as well, which is a luxury we have in that department.
And so one thing, as we were kind of like warming up with that pre-talk, we were talking a little bit about we're in 12 countries in one U.S. territory. So it's really when we leverage our global volume to make these purchases, that's a benefit that we have. But at the same time, a challenge that we have is to buy products that are appealing and relevant for a very diverse set of consumers and members. So maybe a good question to go to Ariane is talking a little bit about how do we get to know our consumer? I think it's something really important because when I think about kind of philosophically what we're really doing here, we're doing a lot of the work around research and quality assurance and buying for the member. We're pooling the buying power. We're doing that work for the member. That's part of what they buy in with their membership is the trust that we're going to do the work for them. And if they're not satisfied, they can bring the product back. We have a very generous return policy. So it's all part of that trust. And at the end of the day, the brand loyalty and sort of position we have in the market. So I'm curious about how do we get to know who our members are?
So I think it's a form of listening, and there's many ways to listen and observe what is going on in the market. We do pay markets visits, and members also tell us what they want through their purchases. And you can follow trends that way, expand categories or maybe retract some where you don't see as much success, build on what has been successful. So observing what people are purchasing is really, really important. And then when we visit market, we look at what is there. And we ask our colleagues that live down there also what they think about product. And we take all that into consideration to generate ideas.
So we do a lot of qualitative work around speaking with the operators, talk to the team locally. Lisa, tell me a little bit about the partnership that we have between the buyer and the club manager and their team. How does that look? I mean, how do you work with, that's one of the unique dynamics of our business is that we have some sourcing in country, a lot in the US. How do you partner with our club managers that are really there as the face of our relationship with the member?
It's definitely a dynamic relationship where we want their feedback from them so we can better improve our processes, the flow of product. A lot of those conversations are around inventory, base and flow to make sure we support and give the right item, the right time, the right price.
Yeah, the 6 rights.
The 6 rights. A great way that we engage, and an item that I have here is our butter cookie program.
I think I have an example over here.
And we design these, PriceSmart, my team. And
butter cookies.
Yes. So we design these tins.
Nice.
And we
very attractive tin, to be fair.
We'll come up with 3 to 4 different concepts, and then we send out surveys to ops. We get their feedback, and then we move forward with the one that resonated with the most. So it's designed for us, by us. So it's very exciting that we've been able to utilize technology to do dynamic live surveying.
Yeah, these butter cookies are so fun. And I know, for Costco, for example, our cousins to the north, they're a wonderful product for them. And I know they've become a really great product for us. And one of the products, when I think of Lisa Knight, one of the products I always think about is the box of cookies, that like kind of big, is it a Belgian box of cookies?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a really unusual package. Can you tell us a little bit about it? If you'll have to, for our listeners, you'll have to check it out next Christmas season. If you're lucky, maybe it will be at PriceSmart. But it's this really like kind of long box, really unique packaging, very attractive. And it's cookies, Christmas cookies, right? Tell me about that product.
Yes. So that item, what's unique about it was Belgian chocolate, but Belgian cookies.
Yeah.
So very different as far as the quality and the taste. And we learned from that.
Signature Lisa Knight item.
Which we will not see this year. Okay. However, you will see from that same supplier something new and exciting. So we will have Belgian chocolate and rope cookies, but they're going to be filled. So more exciting, more differentiated from our neighbors. And the pack size. So in that item, when we buy items, we look at the display case, and they were leaning a little bit, and it wasn't telling the story that there was 4 individually wrapped raisins.
Tricky package.
Yes. So we take that learning and make sure for the next year, we use all of our resources to make those trays almost like billboards to showcase the benefits to the member.
So much goes into the packaging. One company I really admire in terms of the execution, especially on private label here in the United States, is Trader Joe's. And I think one of the things that they do really, really well is packaging. They're amazing. Products are good. They're good products, but the packaging is superb. And so, yeah, they really do a great job, and it tells so much of the story about the product. How do you think about differences and choices around packaging for some of these branded items that are from a small producer versus private label?
I think that it depends on asking the questions and being curious. What can we change and what can we not change on packaging? Because to be relevant in our markets, we have to make sure what we put on the package does not say any claims that can cause concerns. So sometimes in the US, more information on the package is good, but in our markets, that can be a problem.
Yeah, there's different regulations, let's say.
Yes.
It's the regulatory environment.
Yes, and this is sometimes why we decide to do private label items, so we can have the package we do want, and maybe something off the shelf ready to go is not exactly to our specs or size or exactly how we want. And private label has been a great way to go around those requirements.
You know, I'm happy we're talking about private label. It's something I think you guys should be really proud of, the private label program that you and the private label team have developed together. Particularly, I think for me, one of the areas that I just think is a shining light in our portfolio is the nut program. I mean, it's awesome. You walk in, you can't find these different packaged nuts anywhere else, and they're really good quality. There's mixes, there's pure bags of either pecans or walnuts or whatever. And I was just curious, like, how was it learning how to buy that category? I mean, that was highly specialized. There's a lot of variation in quality, and they come from different places. They're affected by global pricing. I mean, how was it to learn how to buy that category?
You have to learn fast and rely on experts and not just take one source of knowledge.
Yeah.
You have to find out yourself, but you do learn about the commodity business. We go and tour various different suppliers. We make sure that the nuts are the right spec, so the right size, how they look, that our spec is more elevated than what you're going to find in the market. And we are still offering it at one of the strongest comp umbrella prices, where we're offering value to our members. But it was tricky, and also where they're grown, because to get the lowest prices we can, we will always look to source U.S. grown items. So pecans, for example, are normally going to be harvested from Mexico or the U.S. All of ours is always just U.S. grown. So we offer that better value.
Interesting. One kind of switching gears slightly, because we could talk global commodities all day, and I know it's a big challenge managing through things that sometimes are outside of our control. Things that happen with harvests, droughts, and so on and so forth. But I know one of the ways we do that is through really good partnership with our suppliers. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about, like, how do you think about building a relationship with a supplier? I know we think about our providers not only as in a transactional sense, but also truly as partners. And I wanted to ask you if you had any words of advice for maybe aspiring buyers at our company around how to approach building a good relationship with their supplier.
Yeah, so first of all, I would say respect. Always. This is a non-negotiable piece of talking to our suppliers. And then common goals is very important. And then make sure that they get something out of our relationship, just as we get something out of it.
Win-wins.
A win-win relationship.
Totally.
And working together, transparency, I think, is another one I do expect from our suppliers. And at the same time, we owe that to them as well. So if things change on our side, we need to absolutely tell them it's going to affect their business. Just like I would expect them to tell us if anything was going to disrupt ours. I think those are the foundation of a good relationship with suppliers.
Yeah. Can you share, if you can think of a story or an example of where you were challenged but you were able to work through goodwill through with a relationship with the supplier. There's all sorts of things that happen. I mean, I know there's many examples in my mind. I'm curious, if you can kind of share an example.
There's so many. I think though I have learned that you need to treat suppliers right, because I have made some mistakes in my younger buyer at times where perhaps I was withholding information, not necessarily on purpose, but I didn't want to hurt someone's feeling by giving the bad news, maybe. And that didn't end up so great, because then, when it's time to announce something, when you're about to face it, it's a lot harder than giving the news earlier and preparing people for what's coming. Um,
That's a good life lesson in general.
yes.
Yeah.
So that'd be one.
So how was it moving from being a buyer to now managing a team of buyers?
Oh, I'm glad you're asking that, because for people aspiring to this kind of position, it's a completely different job. When you're a buyer, you really control your world, and it's highly satisfying because you see the direct result of your negotiations, your work, your product, your designs, your development, and you watch the sales. And this is your work. That's very tangible. When you become a manager, your sort of product is your people. This is now who you need to care for and support and work with and manage properly. So this is a completely different job description.
What's been the hardest thing about becoming a manager, a team of teams versus just small buying group?
I think that was letting go of the tangible results as an individual with a direct contribution to relying on a team of excellent people to now build those results together. So it's a more of an indirect effect. You rely on other people to achieve the KPI, but you are necessary to have cohesion in team and make sure everybody's supported and manage up. And then sometimes there are, of course, challenges that the buyers need help with. And usually I get called on if it's a little bit dramatic or complicated, but I enjoy that too.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice to roll up your sleeves. But not only is it nice, I think it's really important. I think, the best leaders are able to kind of shield their team from complications, but also are willing to roll up their sleeves and work on stuff together, and work side by side. I think so much teaching. We talk a lot about teaching, and it's really an important aspect of leadership in our company and how we do so much promoting from within. We have to be teaching all the time, be supporting the pipeline of talent that's going to help us keep growing into the future. And one thing I always say about our business is there's two most important positions in our company, and it's not the CEO, and it's not the CFO, it's not the chief merchant, it's the buyers and the club managers. Period. Those are the two positions that make things work in this company, and they're hard positions. So, anything we can do as people in more kind of management roles that we could do to support those people, that's going to help and support them not only in general, but in spending more time on things that impact our members and less time on other stuff. There was something I heard from, might have been the CEO of Instacart or somebody related to Instacart, and it was measuring how much time each of their team members spend on things that directly impact the consumer versus anything else, right? And so it's something I think a lot about us, because there's all sorts of things that get in the way. At the end of the day, we're here as management for our employees, and our team members are here for the member, right? So before we move off of buying, the last thing I wanted to kind of touch on the buying topic, first I want to talk a little bit about a few products, and I also want to talk a little bit about logistics through those products. PriceSmart is a merchandising, it's a retail company, but it's also a logistics company in a lot of ways, because we are able to support our pricing through operating very efficiently. And where we're not operating efficiently, we know where it is and we work on it, and that's how we continue driving value for the members, especially by driving out inefficiencies and out costs in places where they're not serving us. But we have a few different products here, and you're welcome to pick one, but I wanted to talk maybe just to start for starters about the chocolate covered almonds. They look really good for one. But anything you want to share on this product? And it looks pretty delicious based on what you shared. Almonds are grown here in the U.S. Yeah.
So
Tell me why this product? Why chocolate covered almonds?
well, we had sales data, so we use data to make decisions.
Okay.
And we saw that we had very good sales in milk chocolate almonds, but the size wasn't right. The ticket was
So we're selling a branded item.
We were selling a branded item, but we saw potential that we can make it better. We could control the country of origin to get that better price. We can control the size. We can control how the bag, the notch, so when it tears, it can tear cleaner. So all those different points. So this item has launched. And speaking of launches, part of the job is we go to first production runs when our name is on the product to make sure everything goes as planned. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Member selection brand.
Member selection brand. We're out of it. Got hairnet on. We get all donned up. And with this item, it was the first time they produced it. And the almonds were a little too slippery. So they were sliding too heavily down the flow. And they were going everywhere but in the bag.
Oh, really?
Almonds flying
On the machine? They were just
everywhere. It was crazy.
It was like a mess.
They were shooting it off. And we were able to immediately shut down the line, and we worked with the team to recalibrate. And
So the chocolate itself was too slippery.
it was making the flow. Too many were flowing into the hopper. So it's all those little details and things that you learn, and even our vendors learn on how to make a better product and make the nuts go into the bag and eventually into the shopping carts.
Totally. That's really interesting. So detailed. So much detail. So much thought. Were these ever in a plastic tin or plastic jar?
The
Or
old
adults?
item,
Yeah.
the old item was in a jar, and also with the jar, you're stuck on how much cube. You can't lower the weight without lowering the jar, and there's too many on the pallet. So all those different pieces were how can we flow it in the most cost efficient way, and then we have the ability to down to the weight of the plastic to make sure that it's thick enough to protect them.
Yeah. So more efficient from a cube pallet utilization
And
standpoint.
more environmentally friendly as
Less
well.
plastic.
Less plastic.
That's great. Easier to handle for operators, so better operating efficiency.
And freshness in your pantry.
Yep.
You can really
So-
push out all the air. Mhm.
Yeah. So there's a lot of thought that goes into each of these products. Yeah, it's funny. Most of the ones you picked today, we have a lot in these bags. And I remember when these products came out and they were in the tins, and it's been interesting to watch. I think particularly with the ecological impact and carbon impact, it makes a lot of sense that we're moving to more of the bag format. I think it also just makes sense from a palate standpoint as well. So that's good. Now, what about the dog treats?
Oh, the dog treats is one of our babies. It's a really interesting
Dog is not the baby. The dog treat.
the dog treat, yeah. So very passionate about the pet department. There is amazing growth in it.
It's a great category.
That's a global trend. It is very fun to go to pet trade show. Lots of
there pet
people.
At the pet
They
trade
are,
shows?
yes. Some of
I would
my
like to go to
colleagues
a pet
here
trade show.
actually adopted pets.
Really?
Yes.
When's the next pet trade show?
In August in Las Vegas, if you're interested. There's a really, really good one. Super
Interested.
It's very fun. There's poodles being dyed and hairdo competition. But apart from that, there's the whole world of treating your pet like a baby. And in the U.S., people have a little less children and a little bit more pets.
It's happening globally. There's very interesting reporting on family composition changes globally.
So people have dogs and cats and they treat them.
For babies.
The fur babies. And so there's an explosion of availability of pet supply and how to treat your pet or dress up like your pet or have a beer with your pet. There's pet beer out there. We're in a party, not going to buy you some. But all this to tell you that we've been seeing a lot of opportunity with treats. So this was our entry in the category under the brand member selection.
Right.
There were products off the shelf available, but this is a similar story to Isa. We did not like the size. Okay. This is a very premium treat. We do not have that right now in the club branded. Sorry, we did not have it branded or otherwise. So this was very much pushing the limits and a bit of a risk in this item because we entered the category of We have a very premium item that is completely differentiated. We're not sure people would understand it. And I'm wealthy because we didn't really see much of that in the market.
Were you worried about the price point?
The price point was a worry, and also the premiumness of it.
So when you say understand, you mean maybe that the value wouldn't be clear. Why spend that price point for this item?
It would our members understand the superior nutrition that it provides and the price point?
I think that question is, would we be able to communicate or somehow articulate?
Yeah. So if you look at this item, it does actually have the call outs of what we really wanted to provide, which is there is no grain, it is only meat, there is nothing else but meat in there. So, and we're very passionate in treating pets right in our markets, and this is our little way of doing that, offering products like this with superior nutrition.
Yeah. You know, I have a theory that I think our members are really smart. And I think if something isn't working, there's a reason, right? And so if you're checking all the right boxes and you're checking the 6 rights and it really is a superior value, they're going to know. I really believe that they vote with their dollars and there's wisdom in the crowd. So is this available now?
Yes, it's available now in about half of the clubs. We are proceeding with a full launch everywhere once we can overcome all the sanitary registration that we need to sell everywhere. So this will be a full launch, and I'm happy to report the results are great. So our members have understood this product.
Yeah, I think the consumer is quite good with deciphering things if we give them a chance. Well, that's great to hear about the quality and the results so far. And even better that we're able to provide something at a great value that's also a good product from a quality perspective for the pets. Pets are like members of the family, right? So I know it's growing a lot. Have you found that any difference between cat versus dog
Very
items in terms of sales performance?
So very much so.
Are popular.
And we have theory behind that and what. And that we had to talk to a lot of vendors to understand this mystery to us that our cat food and seem to have a lot more traction than dog food. It boils down to palatability and the fact that dogs will eat anything.
So not on a palate. We're not talking about different kind of palate now. We're talking about the one in the
Liver?
The mouth.
Yes.
The animal.
Exactly. So a dog will eat an entry-level food or a premium food. So he's not telling you what he likes. However, a cat, if you offer a cat a corn-based product versus a meat-based product.
It's supposed to eat grain.
No, but it is in some entry-level foods, unfortunately. The cat will gravitate towards
omnivorous.
Yes. So the cat will gravitate towards the higher quality naturally, and so the cats do tell their owners that they want better nutrition.
That sounds very cat. Interesting. It's a really fun category. And I think, it adds a lot for our members, and it's an area that we're starting to give a lot more space to. Both in terms of the non-foods items as well as some of the consumable items for pets. So great work on this, and congratulations on the results so far. Any other products you two want to look at while we're looking at merchandise?
This is a branded item, and
what is this?
This is a manicure kit
for dogs.
No, not for dogs, for humans. No. And it comes with a bag. And I was looking for products to showcase today, and I was in our sample room downstairs, and I was staring into space, a lot of products, and the buyer for this came by. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this podcast, and I'm looking for something that you push the limits a little bit on, something that you took a risk on, and you weren't so sure, but you believed in it. What is it? So she came up with this one. We've had in the past makeup bags with nothing in them, and they were more girly. So what did she do with this? She added items. And notice how quickly you can identify what's in the bag.
Who was the buyer for this item?
Anna Barova. And she made it manly, which I think is quite a statement. Because I know women will buy bags and makeup kits for themselves. I think men need a little bit more coercion into that. But talk about the right price. This is around, I think it's in the teens. And then the right time, this is right now in the clubs, and Father's Day is in about a month. So,
That's right.
and this is going really, really well. But I was really, this was a risk. She had never done anything like this.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, that's part of buying. It's taking calculated risks, bringing in products that our members haven't seen before, and ideally helping showcase products that our members didn't know that they wanted. Maybe they find the things they want, but they also might find things they didn't know they wanted. And then that's really makes the shopping experience an experience, not just a utility for people. So it really is fun. And we can talk about it all day. And there's so much to talk about. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about culture, about the company. It's a topic I always like to save some space for, and make sure we cover, because I think it's really central to how we do what we do. And for starters, what I'd like to ask each of you, just the simple question is, why do you like working here?
The people in this office, in our clubs, and our members, and knowing what we're doing matters. We're offering value. We're offering clean ingredients, safe food, and it's really rewarding.
Totally. That's a great answer. And it's a people business at the end of the day. So I really appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Same thing for me. I've met some amazing people here that are friends. For years, all the 17 years, I'm happy to see them every day. Smart people, not only nice. And then I think, there's a bigger purpose to what we do. You think we're just selling stuff. Yes, but I like to think also that we're selling stuff at a value that gives maybe a little bit more room to our members to buy something else. So we're helping hopefully with their finances. And then we do good apart from that, and our partner Krista and our other efforts into philanthropy are also very important. I think I'm proud of being in a company that also does those things for the community.
At the same time, it's very important, I think, from a cultural perspective, that we leave room for people to fail. Not that the farm fail, but failure is a critical aspect of growing. And so without failing, we don't learn. And so there has to be room with guardrails, but there has to be room to fail. So you have my commitment to support that for sure. It's absolutely critical. And we want our buyers particularly to really own their areas and to be the ones making the choices, good or bad, win or fail, with the guardrails, of course. But, that's how I would want to be treated. So I think in practice to do that, it comes down to the individual manager and the area, and making sure we're upholding the sort of culture that we talk about consistently across the whole company. Something I said last episode is like companies are kind of like religions. And in some way, it's true, right? We have like a shared set of beliefs that we have to uphold across different cultures and languages and countries so that we can all show up and be aligned in providing a service and a way of doing things that's consistent and aligned with our values and aligned with our philosophy, aligned with our business model. And it takes constant reinforcement. So it's kind of, it's like a cult or something, but hopefully good ones. Yeah. So there's some aspects of that, but no, thanks for that. Appreciate the insights. So can you think of a particular victory in your career that you're most proud of, or a triumph?
I can start. I was given the opportunity more than 10 years ago to build from scratch a liquor program that we buy from here corporately. I was a super junior buyer. That was my first buying opportunity. So I was felt very honored to be given a chance, first of all, but it was so amazing to be able to define the strategy, understand the obstacle, and after a year, being able to start launching the program and seeing the result. So we had, it did not exist, and now this is a successful department. So I enjoy seeing my baby continue to prosper, but I think I'll be forever proud of creating it.
Yeah. You built something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's one of the coolest things about working in business, in my opinion, is we get to build things. And given we're not necessarily building software, we're not building, I mean, we build buildings, but you know, we're building experiences, we're creating new items. There's so much creativity involved in retail, and it's almost something that I think is a little bit underappreciated unless you work in retail. And particularly in our business, there's a lot of creative problem solving that has to happen to make things work. How about you, Lisa?
In general, the seasonal foods program
Yeah.
is my big baby. And watching it grow and over the years and trying new things, from bringing in a giant gummy bear that did very, very well, hot cocoa meltaways, having fun to be playful and introduce new items and see them be very successful. And with our butter cookies, we developed these. And after 1 year, because every year it's new, we released the designs to the vendors. And at a trade show, I saw our design that was the entire billboard in the trade show they were advertising. This beautiful art was on the cover of their catalog and one of the top selling pieces that item we designed. It was the 3-pack. There's a 3-pack of this, and it had nutcracker.
How flattering.
So it was just, again, this oh my goodness, we designed that. And that's what they're using to be the face of the entire company.
It's in their booth at the trade show.
Yeah.
Very largely so.
And it's a collection of our designs too. Now they have added, there are more.
Telling you, you guys are doing a really good job. There's a lot of this is why I wanted to talk to you. How big was the gummy bear?
It was a pound.
Oh, wow.
It was a giant pound. Probably the riskiest.
I think I saw it. Was it red?
It was red. It was 2 different colors. And this year we went with the red. They both sold very strongly. But it's great to see those little items that we took a measured risk, and then we can increase our volume, so then get stronger pricing and maintain.
Yeah.
On the butter cookie, it's also an example of a win-win, where Lisa created a design and the vendor is able, when we discard it, they're able to use it and hopefully get some more sales out of it. And on the gummy bear, the funny thing is we're still wondering how you eat that. You start by the ears.
You know, one thing that really comes through that's super clear is like how much joy it brings both of you to do what you're doing around buying merchandise and developing products. And I'm curious, just like maybe for some of our younger listeners who maybe are Gen Z employees or new in their careers, like, did you always know this is what you wanted to do? I mean, did it take a little while to develop the passion? You know, especially you, Lisa, you've been doing this a long time in terms of buying products, but like, you know, how did you, I think some people are lucky and they maybe come out knowing what they want in life, and others it takes a while, you know. I think about a cousin of mine that's a police officer, and I remember forever he like always wanted to be a cop, you know, and that's cool, but like I didn't ever want to work in retail. Honestly, I had wanted to have nothing to do with the family business. But as I got into it and learned and worked my way up doing different things, and some things I liked, some things I did not like. I didn't really like buying jewelry. I bought jewelry? Yeah. With the PriceSmart picks, we were buying pearls and things, and I went to the JCK jewelry trade show, and not my thing. But you learn, you know, and I found other things I really liked more from a mechanical, tactical basis. But what I really fell in love with was the business model and the people and the way we think about treating employees and the way we act as an employer and the way we think about treating our customers and the way we think about working with suppliers. I fell in love with how we do our business, and it's so righteous, you know. It's like just feels good, at least like in at a very deeply personal level for me. That's like, oh, I can really commit my life to doing this, right? So I'm curious for you, like, can you talk a little bit about that journey to like developing, you know, how did you come to having such joy? Because I think like for a young listener, the thing I would hope for you is that you're able to work into having passion for what you do. I don't think it's a fair expectation necessarily to follow your passion. I mean, sometimes it takes time to develop it. So I'm curious about your story.
Oh, well, I can start. I grew up in the world of buying. My mother ran a collectible business. So at 7 years old, we'd be going to flea markets and engaging in negotiations and purchasing products and then connecting them with their forever home and seeing the joy it sparked in us finding items and put them where they needed to be. So I learned a lot about negotiation, a lot about relationships. And I never thought my path would come back to purchasing, but it's a deeply rooted joy that you're doing the right thing. And all of my other roles, I bought home accent, I designed custom Christmas ornaments. So I brought that design level to seasonal. So I think that experience is charm bracelets. And when they all start clicking together and you know what you're doing is right, you know how to do it, you have the support to do it, that's where the joy is. So
Cool. So cool. How about you?
I think I fell in love with it. I know I can't accept the part about this intrigue about working in something global and overseas and businessy. I think I got lucky. I really do. That I landed here, and the more I worked my way up, the more I fell in love with it in the different jobs I had, and I really learned a lot along the way. But yeah, I was not expecting this love relationship with my work.
Yeah. Well, it's really a wonderful thing. Could be Paul spent a whole lot of time here at work, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Occasionally, lost sleep. I know. It can be very consuming. But that's wonderful because I think it adds a whole lot of meaning to what you spend your day doing.
It's happiness.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. So, speaking of kind of to round out that point before we get into some more kind of off work, more personal kind of topics, any advice you have for entry level or person beginning their career? What would you tell them as advice? Give them one piece of advice.
Oh, one piece.
Yeah, one. You have to choose. Life's about choices.
Be perpetually persistent.
Okay. Why?
Because it's a never give up mentality, and dust yourself off, try again. You always stay curious. So I think it's that being self-driven is why I would wrap it up in those two words.
Awesome. It's really hard to choose because I would have a whole lot of things to say to coach someone into starting a career, but don't limit yourself is one I would say. Don't live your dream. Just reach out for it. Try. Don't squash it before you try.
Say yes. Yeah, keep moving. Totally.
Never give up.
So, we're kind of coming up close to our time, and I always like to take a little time just to let our listeners learn a piece about what do you do when you're not working? I mean, family, hobbies. Who are Lisa and Ariane? Who are the not professional, the mom, the hobbyist, the athlete? What do you like to do?
I still go to flea markets and find treasures because it's in my blood. Also, you can find us probably at many of the Disney parks. We are big Disney enthusiasts, and Weaving, my husband, who was also guest my prom date. So I'm a longtime loyalist. And my daughter is 10.
I like it. Very nice.
So I'm also a mother. I have 8-year-old twin girls and a 5-year-old boy, and right now they're my life. I also have shout out a super supportive husband, which is part-time at home, who has allowed me to have a career. So we just do a lot of things as a family, and I think a priority is to get out of the house and do things
So fun.
outside.
Yeah, I've gotten to meet your son here before. I acted with Lisa. We were looking at a seasonal candy and cookies.
He wanted the
And
gummy
he-
bear.
yeah.
I had to buy one when I got
Now
home.
I remember the gummy bear very clearly.
He had it clutched in little hands.
Well, yeah, aspiring member right there.
Yep.
Very nice. Any hobbies? Things you like to do?
Just skiing, camping, again, outdoorsy stuff.
Beautiful. Very nice. So I always kind of, as I approach the end of these conversations, I always ask if you could share one thing that you've learned from a colleague in the last 12 months that has made a positive impact on you.
I can start. I've been thinking about this one. Mine actually started before 12 months, but I'll tell you about it because it was life-changing. And it's the importance of compassionate leadership. And this is something I had to learn when I became a manager. And really, really what does that mean? It means taking the time to listen and see the other side of the story. Empathize with what people are going through or are thinking, and also always assume best intentions. And this has helped me be such a better manager, leader, and also a mom.
That last piece of advice or that learning is such gold. Assuming best intent. Remember that one, listeners. That's a good one. I mean, really, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's very important, especially working with people, diverse set of people.
I think I know it's putting things in perspective when you take a measured risk. So Melissa would always go, okay, let's run 2 different scenarios. And then you might be really scrutinizing a decision and you're concerned about it. And if you look at what the actual value is between these 2 choices, it's very minimal and it makes it much easier to make a decision. So I always now will run 2 or 3 different scenarios each time. And then I have that assurance that I'm making the right decision. And that was big.
It's great. Yeah, there's a lot of learning that happens and a lot of teaching as you grow that you need to be doing. So it sounds like you're both doing a lot of both, teaching and learning. So thank you both so much for being on the podcast today. Really appreciate it, Ariane and Lisa. And thanks for all that you're doing at PriceSmart to support our business and our members and your teams. You're doing a great job. And it's wonderful to get a chance to look at merchandise today, talk about buying philosophy, talk about suppliers, talk about teams, talk about win-wins, negotiation, managing global supply chain. It's not easy. It's not easy. So what you guys do is extraordinary. And we wouldn't have our business without your teams and the rest of our buyers around the region, who, and I can attest to this, every time I travel to market, I walk the floor at least, we do our floor walks, and I walk the floor every time I travel. And I always try to have buyers with me walking the floor. Of course, the operators are there. They're in the warehouse club, but the buyers need to be there too. And one thing that is consistent is people love what they do. They're so passionate and competitive with what they do, and it's contagious. It just makes all of it so fun. So keep up the good work. And for our listeners today, thank you so much again for joining us at another episode of At the Club. Please leave comments. We want to hear from you. Tell us what you want to hear more of, what you liked, what you didn't like. Feel free to email our team or write me directly. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of At the Club. Thank you.